Hey guys, it's Jessie. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another reading wrap-up, reading stats video. So I unfortunately didn't get around to filming one of these in February. I just got a bit too busy, so I thought what I would do is just combine these 2 months together, do my February and March reading wrap-ups, because I'm off to Bali on the 24th of March, which is very, very exciting. But that does mean that obviously I'm having to film a little bit early, film my wrap-up early. So April's reading wrap-up will have a few more books in it, just the books that I've read at the start of March, to be honest. But besides that, I thought up until the 23rd of March, which is when I'm filming it today, that will be my kind of March reading wrap-up, just so we're about a week off, but we still have some good books to read. So in February and March together, I read 19 books, which is pretty good. I'm going to run through my February stats first, and then my March stats, and then I will go through the books all together at the end. I just think that's better because, I mean, if you're just here for the stats, you get that. If you're here for the books as well, you can watch the whole thing. Basically, yeah. I asked you on my community tab whether you guys still liked reading wrap-ups, because they are the least viewed videos on my channel. I wanted to check you guys were still interested. I did put the option for bi-monthly ones, but you guys overall said you were still interested in seeing them every month, so I will continue to do them. Let me know in the comments what you guys think as well. But yeah, firstly, getting into it for February, I read 9 books. That was a total of 3,020 pages. That means my average pages per day was 108. My average pages per book was 336, and my average rating was 3.64, which was higher than January, which is always good. I'm aiming for an average 4. I know that's a bit difficult because I often read books for videos I don't get to pick, but overall that is the goal. A book spent an average of 0.6 months on my TBR. I read a lot of ebooks and audiobooks in January, which I wouldn't consider being on my TBR at all, because they are books that, like, I don't have physically, I'm not like necessarily owning for ages, so I just would consider that as, I don't even include them in that. And then I also read some books that I literally just bought that month and the month before, so I wouldn't include that. The percentage read that was on my TBR pre-January 2023, which is my main reading goal of the year, is to get down my physical TBR, which I was tracking since the start of January, was a big fat 0, which is not great, but it's fine. We did better in March. I read a lot of ebooks and audiobooks, as I mentioned before. The percentage of print versus audio versus ebook was 44% print, 44% audio, and 11% ebooks. The best book I read that month was Final Offer by Lauren Asher. I had a whole reading vlog for this, which I will link in the cards. And the worst book I read was Redeemed, also by Lauren Asher, but I will link that in the cards as well. Just unfortunately didn't like that one too much. The number of books I bought 6 books this month, including 2 that were gifted to me, either by friends, family, etc. More often not my boyfriend, but yeah, so not too bad. I obviously read more books that I'm bringing in, which is also a goal, so yeah, not too bad. Then for March, I read a total of 10 books, so 1 more than February so far. I'm planning on reading a few more. Obviously I've got a big plane ride tomorrow, so I'll read a lot more than that many books in March, but they will obviously be included in the April wrap-up. The total pages read was 3,529. That means there was an average of 110 pages a day and 353 pages per book, a bit more than last month, and my average rating was 3.83, which is pretty high. That's the highest it's been so far. Very happy. Had a pretty good reading month, to be honest. The average month a book was on my TBR this month was 10. That was because we had one super old book that I've had for 5 years on here. That's really skewing it, and then a couple that were quite long. Then the percentage of these that were on my TBR pre-2023 was 60%. That's pretty good for me. Print versus audio versus ebook versus mixed media, which is why I do audiobook and an ebook or physical book, was 70% print and then 10% for the other 3. The best book I read this month was The House in the Cerulean Sea, and the worst book was Note to Self, and I bought 4 books this month, including 2 that were gifted to me. So overall, pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Good statistics for me, and yeah, I'll just get started. So the first book that I read in February was All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. This was a kind of mystery thrillery book, but I didn't enjoy it all too much. I gave it a 2.5 rating. I read this via audiobook and didn't really enjoy it at all, to be honest. I felt like the ending was rushed. It was very much a rip-off of the John Ramsey case. It was literally the exact same, and I didn't find it all too that gripping. I think if I didn't have it via audiobook, I wouldn't have enjoyed it too much. I'll just talk about the dates. I finished that one on February 1st, and on February 6th I finished Final Offer by Lauren Asher. Again, as I mentioned, I had a reading vlog. This is a romance book and I gave this a full 5 stars. I really enjoyed the characters in here. I really enjoyed the kind of childhood friends to lovers to strangers to lovers again storyline. That's one of my favourite tropes, and yeah, overall I really like this story. Good character development, good plot, good pacing. Overall I thought it was really good. Then I read The It Girl by Ruth Ware. I finished this on the 9th of February. This is a thriller. I read this by audiobook and I gave this a 3.5 stars. Again, I just didn't find it all too that gripping. It's another one that I would have probably struggled with if I didn't have the audiobook. I thought it's kind of a classic mystery, like it's about a girl whose friend died in university, and a few years later she's starting to worry that it was her evidence that sent the guy to prison for her, and she's starting to worry that she was like incorrect. So it's kind of good, but overall I didn't really like the twist in this. I didn't find it too crazy, to be honest. I then read a short story collection called Send Nudes by Sarah Sams. I finished this on the 10th of February. This is just like general fiction, and I gave this one a 4.75. This was a physical book that I bought that month, and I really enjoyed it. I was definitely very pleasantly surprised by it because I haven't heard too much, but overall I thought the stories were really good. Some of them were a bit weird, which I enjoyed, and overall it was a lot about kind of like femininity, womanhood, things like that, which I did enjoy. Then I read the audiobook Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. I finished this as well on the 10th of February. This was like a mystery type book. I gave this a 2.75. There wasn't really a twist here, I didn't think. Nothing, like, I guess there was, but I predicted it and I didn't find it very interesting. I listened to the book basically in one sitting pretty much whilst I was playing Gardenscapes on my phone. Homescapes actually on my phone, and it was good to kill the time, but I wouldn't really recommend it. I definitely wouldn't recommend paying for it. I got it for free on Scribd, which I mean is a subscription that I pay for, but I would call it free. I just didn't really enjoy it too much. I didn't think it was very good. Then we finally have a physical book to hold up, which is Killers of a Certain Age by Deanna Raybourn. I finished this on the 20th of February, and this is like a general fiction mystery. We're following a group of retired assassins, an all-girl group, and they're basically being targeted now, and it was really good. I gave this a 4.5. This was definitely my most kind of exceeded expectations book. I really enjoyed this one. Thought it was really good. This is obviously a library book, but I would be tempted to pick up my own copy because I think this is one I could potentially reread. Really enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting to. Then I read Redeemed by Lauren Asher. I finished this on the 26th of February. This is just a romance book and I read this on my Kindle. I gave this a 2.5 rating. We're following like this retired Formula 1 driver, and he like falls in love with this girl. Like, it's cute. It's definitely more of a emotional romance, or just like a bit deeper, I think, with some of the topics covered, but overall I just didn't really enjoy it too much. I've been halfway through this book for about 6 months, which kind of shows my enjoyment for it. I really just wasn't that keen on it. I found it a bit boring. I found that it dragged, and overall I didn't really enjoy it. Then I read Sadie by Courtney Summers. This was like a mystery book and it's got a really cool podcast element to it. I listened to this via audiobook and it was like full cast, very high production, so really enjoyed that. But unfortunately the overall story I didn't really like too much. You're basically following this girl Sadie as she kind of runs away to try and find revenge for what happened to her sister. Her sister was kidnapped and killed, I believe, and half the story follows her in real time, and then half of the story follows like a few months later a podcaster trying to figure out what happened to her. I gave this 3 stars and I thought it was okay. The ending was like, it was, people would say like, oh, it was a really open ending. It was very obvious what happened at the end, and it was okay. Like, I just really didn't find it too interesting at all, and yeah, it kind of dragged for me too. I then read The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osmond. I finished this on the 28th of February, so the last day. This is a mystery book and I gave this a 4.75. This is definitely my favourite in the Thursday Murder Club series so far. I really enjoyed this one. We're following the same group from the first book. I just love the relationships. I love the characters. I cried like 3 times when I read this. Really would recommend, especially if you enjoyed the first one. I think this is even better. Then I read Note to Self by Connor Franta. This was picked for me by my TBR wheel for a non-fiction pick, and this is Connor Franta, a YouTuber if you don't know. This is actually signed. I went to meet him and got it signed in person, but this is his second book, I believe. It's a collection of kind of short essays, poetry and pictures. Like, it just felt like very much like 2014 kind of Tumblr vibes in a book. The photography is okay. The essays are pretty decent. They're average, like more like memoir type of stuff, and the poetry poems. Some of them are good, some of them are very like Instagram poems. So I gave this one a 2.5. Unfortunately, I just did not enjoy it too much. I think if I'd have read this in 2017, I would have resonated with it much more, but now I just don't really find it relevant to me. It's a pretty book, very pretty book, probably one of the prettiest books. I really like the cover, but unfortunately it just wasn't really my thing. I think you can definitely tell it's like a product of its time. Then I read Pizza Girl, another one generated for me in that TBR wheel. I finished this on the 4th of March. I finished that one on the 3rd. This is just general fiction, and I gave this one a 4 stars. I thought it was really fun, really short book. Definitely reminded me of Convenience Store Woman, kind of just like a little bit of an unhinged, not unhinged necessarily, but like a little bit of an abnormal narrator. You kind of followed her as her kind of mind state kind of deteriorates a bit and she gets a bit obsessed with this woman, and overall it was very, very interesting and I did enjoy it. So yeah, a solid 4 star from me. Then I read Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I read this via ebook and I really, really enjoyed this one too. I gave this one a 4 stars, finished this on the 6th of March, and yeah, I just had a great time reading it. It was a really nice like rom-com. I read this via a mix of audiobook and ebook actually, so that probably should be mixed media, so that actually skews my percentages, but it's fine, we'll ignore that. But yeah, I did really enjoy this one. I read I think about 2, 3, 4 chapters via the physical book and the rest via audiobook, and yeah, that was a really cute little romance. Really, really reminded me of The Duff, and yeah, just had a great time with that one. Then I read my favourite book of the month and potentially one of my new favourite books of all time. This one's not unfortunately with me right now. I've kept it at uni because I think I might want to reread it, and that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I gave this one a 5 stars. This is a kind of cozy fantasy book, like found family. It's like an orphanage of magical children, and it's just so sweet. I absolutely adore it. It felt like so nostalgic for me for some reason, but like just so like heartwarming. Really, really love that one. Then I listened to the audiobook of Disfigured by Amanda Leduc. Unfortunately, I didn't like this one too much. I gave it 2.75. It's about disabilities and kind of disfigurement in fairy tales, but I felt like the overall message was a little bit jumbled. Some of the comparisons she was trying to make, I feel like she was comparing characters who are really skinny or kind of had like marks on their faces to like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, who's like got a proper disability. So it felt like a bit mixed messages. They were trying to say like because Jafar in Aladdin is skinny, that's like another representation of kind of disabilities, but I didn't really feel like that is a completely accurate description of it. Like I don't think that's like really adding to the point, because that just like took me out and I was like, well, would you really count that? It's just a slim face. Anyway, it's not really my place to kind of discuss the ins and out of it, but overall I just felt like the way the book was set out was a little bit jumbled and it felt a bit repetitive at points, and then certain points were just talked about really quickly, and overall I just didn't really, I liked the information but I just didn't really enjoy the book and the way that it was told. I felt like the author's own personal anecdotes about her experience was the most interesting part, and that was only like dotted throughout. So yeah, unfortunately that one didn't hit for me. Then I read It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This was a very pleasant surprise book for me. I was not expecting to like this as much as I did, but I did really, really enjoy it. I gave this one a 3.75 stars. It would have been a 4, but I just felt like the first half was super, super strong. Really liked the pining, really liked the couple, but then the second half just felt a little bit flat. It felt a bit generic for me, but overall I did enjoy this one. Then I read Wrong Place, Wrong Time, which if it wasn't for The House in the Cerulean Sea would have been my favourite of the month. This was a really, really good mystery thriller book. I gave this one a 4.75. This one had me like jaw dropped with the twist. There were so many in here, which I love when books have multiple twists. We're basically following a woman who's seen her son commit a murder, and then every day she goes back in time to try and figure out what it was, why it happened, and I thought this was great. I really, really enjoyed it. It had me on the edge of my seat and I didn't want to put it down. I read the whole second half in one sitting. Really, really loved it. Then I read The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James, which I also enjoyed, but I think the first half again kind of sets you up really well, and then the second half kind of felt a bit flat for me. I gave this one a 3.5. It was good. Sorry, I finished this one on the 16th of March. I've missed a few, but that's just where we're going to go for. I'm not going to go back and list them all. But yeah, overall this was good. It was interesting. It was entertaining. Definitely a little bit spooky. I definitely think it brought the atmosphere. It's kind of like a bit of a haunted house story, and it definitely felt very spooky, which I liked. But overall, I don't know if you'd call it a twist, but like kind of the plot reveal, I guess, of the mystery I didn't enjoy too much. I feel like the first half was a lot better than the second half. Then we have The Bullet That Missed by Richard Osmond. I finished this on the 21st of March. This is a mystery book. I gave this one a 4.5 stars. Again, the third book in the Thursday Murder Club series. I enjoyed it more than the first, not as much as the second, but still really loved it. I love the characters. It makes me giggle, it makes me laugh. I find it so funny. I find them so cute. I just love being in this world. I can't wait to pick up the next book in the series, which I believe is coming out in November, The Last Devil to Die. I'm really excited about that. And yeah, really enjoyed this one. Sped through it pretty fast too. And then also on the 21st of March, I finished A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. Unfortunately, this felt a little bit flat for me. I had really high expectations, but I ended up just giving this a 3.5. The twists weren't shocking to me. I found it quite predictable, and overall I just didn't really like it. I felt like, again, the first half set it up really well, but the second half felt a bit boring, felt a bit slow. The final reveal wasn't shocking to me. I feel like all of the misdirects as well that you sometimes have in a thriller book were also very predictable in this one. Like, it was also a very closed room, I guess you'd say, because there's not many characters. Like, because mystery thrillers, you know it's not going to be someone out of left field that you've never met. Like, you know it's going to be one of the characters that is the killer. And unfortunately I just found it very predictable, and there weren't very many characters to pick from, so I feel like that's where it lacks a bit. I feel like you could have had a few more suspects in there, and that would have definitely benefited the book. Overall it was fine. I listened to it a mix via print and audiobook. Again, I don't know why I marked that wrong. I listened to this mixed, but yeah. So yeah, 2 more books mixed than I thought, but yeah, overall this was fine. Unfortunately a little bit disappointing. So yeah, those are all the books I've read in the last few months. I really hope you guys did enjoy this wrap up. I'll be doing another one with obviously the extra books in March and April, but yeah, I really hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a like down below, hit subscribe, turn on the bell to our little club, make sure you turn on all notifications, then you'll be notified every single time I post a new video. If you want to watch my other videos, there'll be 2 on the screen now to pick from, as well as they're linked up in the cards from earlier. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.